Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda, and in this important episode of Ignition Time, I'm going to talk to you about an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal that suggested that the president should declare a national economic emergency to help low-wage earners and middle-income earners, and why I believe Congress is going to take some action very soon. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda, and my channel is Ignition Time. In this video, I'm going to go over three things. Number one, an offensive approach from the president. This is an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal from Stephen Moore, and I'll tell you who Stephen Moore is in just a second. And essentially, it's an opinion piece about how the president can deliver tax relief without Congress. Yes, you heard that right. The second, I'm going to talk to you about what is a particularly ironic situation, the irony that consumers who are now flush with stimulus money are actually starting to reduce credit card debt. They're actually starting to pay off their credit card, and the amount of credit card debt in the country has actually reduced substantially since this pandemic, in large part because of all the stimulus money and all the unemployment benefits. And number three, why I think it's inevitable that Congress is going to act in this situation. So let's get started with what I call the offensive approach, which is how the president can make essentially an aggressive decision to deliver tax relief without the support of Congress. Now, normally, some sort of an executive action, a national emergency like this would make big news, but we live in such unusual times that this isn't really even being very widely reported, which is why I wanted to shine a light on this. We actually live in a very unusual time. Lord & Taylor's, which is one of the biggest retail chains in the country, declared bankruptcy. They're actually the biggest retail casualty of this pandemic. Retail rents across New York City have actually plummeted because high-end shopping centers, high-end areas in New York City have now turned into ghost towns. So we live in an unusual world. Now, Stephen Moore is a member of the President's Economic Recovery Task Force. And in the article, Stephen Moore writes how Trump can deliver tax relief without Congress, suspend collection of the payroll tax using the same authority that extended the filing deadline to July. So as you might remember, the IRS tax filing deadline was pushed from April to July, and what Stephen Moore is suggesting is that there should be a deferment of the payroll tax. So essentially, employees and workers can now go home with a bigger paycheck because the payroll tax is not getting deducted from their paycheck. So this I thought was an interesting article. So here are some of the core aspects of Stephen Moore's suggestions in this opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal. Oh, just one more thing. Stephen Moore is also the co-founder of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, and Mr. Phil Kerpen is the committee's president. So both Stephen Moore and Phil Kerpen wrote this opinion piece. Now, they write, the Democratic plan includes a 6-month extension of the $600 a week unemployment bonus and $3 trillion in new spending. It would sink the economy and imperil Trump's re-election. And what they write is the president needs to pull an end run, and there's a legal way to do that. He should declare a national economic emergency and announce that the Internal Revenue Service will immediately stop collecting the payroll tax. This is technically called a deferment of tax payments. And in the article, he goes on to mention a section of the tax code which allows the Secretary of the Treasury the authority to postpone the time for performing certain actions. So I will link you to that article to the Wall Street Journal in the description section below. Let me know what you think of this suggestion from Stephen Moore and Phil Kerpen for President Trump to essentially bypass Congress and issue an order that would allow for the deferment of the payroll tax. Now, as far as I know, the article doesn't really talk about whether this would be a waiver of the payroll tax or simply a deferment, and somehow, somewhere, someone would have to catch up at some point in time. You're welcome to read the article in the Wall Street Journal below. But I wanted to shine a light on this suggestion because we live in unusual times, and there's no shortage of unusual suggestions like this floating around. And speaking of unusual suggestions, this just came out as we were preparing this video. The Trump administration is examining options for unilateral action if no pandemic relief package is reached with Congress. Negotiations are continuing, but the two parties are very far apart. Now, it's not clear what steps the administration could take without the help of Congress on issues such as lapsed enhanced unemployment benefits or the expired moratorium on evictions. But both those programs were authorized by Congress earlier this year, and both were designed to be temporary. I mean, it's ironic, isn't it, the times that we live in. Speaking about irony, Consumers flush with stimulus money are actually shunning credit card debt. In other words, they're paying off their credit cards. This is yet another fascinating article in the Wall Street Journal. Definitely something I think that you should check out. And the article says rather than rising as expected when unemployment soared amidst the pandemic lockdowns, credit card debt in the US and other advanced economies has actually dropped. So the interesting thing is unemployment went up, but credit card debt went down. Again, this has a lot to do with all the stimulus money that was flushed into the economy with the CARES Act. On your screen, you'll see a chart from the credit reporting agency Equifax that shows the total outstanding US credit card debt and how it's been going down over time. In fact, Peter Maynard, who's a senior vice president at Equifax, in the Wall Street Journal article said, "We're not seeing consumers increase credit card balances. In fact, they're continuing to pay down balances. They're using the injection of government stimulus, quite frankly, to put themselves in a better position." Here's another chart on your screen that shows you the percentage of US credit card accounts that are 30 days or more past due. In the US, total outstanding credit card debt fell by 11% or $100 billion with a B between February of this year and the end of June, which is not too long ago, according to Equifax. April was the largest monthly drop in revolving credit on record, while May was the second largest according to Federal Reserve data. Personal loan obligations were down by a third in mid-May compared with the beginning of March according to Equifax. Now, I actually think this is a good sign because this shows that all of the stimulus money, all of the unemployment money is actually being used to pay down debt to a large extent. I mean, that's basically what's happening, because never before in the history of our country have we seen so much of cash injection, so much of stimulus money into the economy. And the fact that debt is going down actually tells me that a lot of consumers out there, a lot of my viewers and subscribers are using the money intelligently, saving the money, using it for essentials like rent and food, and actually starting to pay off credit card debt. Now, are there people out there that are, going to go out there and use stimulus money to buy a fancy car or just to buy a whole bunch of video games? Absolutely. That's in any system. There are always going to be individuals who do that. But again, the encouraging trend is that people are using this stimulus money to get out of what I call the vicious cycle of poverty, the vicious cycle of debt that essentially puts us deeper and deeper into debt because we pay more and more interest and we're simply not able to get out of it. So I see this as an encouraging sign. But again, it is particularly ironic that on the one hand, millions of Americans need unemployment, millions of Americans are dealing with eviction, and on the other hand, individuals with this stimulus money have been able to significantly reduce their credit card debt faster than ever before. So I wanted to shine a light on that. And finally, to the third and most important aspect of this video, why I think that Congress will act. I don't say must act, I say will act. A recent article in the Washington Post said that Congress is deeply unpopular again as the gridlock on pandemic relief has real life consequences. People are very unhappy with Congress and the way things are going right now because everyone is expecting the Congress and the Senate to get together and get things done, which is why I believe that these ongoing negotiations between Congress and the White House negotiators with the GOP involved are going to reach some sort of a consensus, some sort of a negotiation as soon as possible, because the unemployment benefits extension has already expired, the eviction moratorium has already expired. In fact, according to this article in the Washington Post, over the past 2 months, congressional approval ratings have crashed downward after a sudden previous bump in approval. Fewer than 1 in every 5 voters say they like what lawmakers are doing on Capitol Hill, according to a Gallup poll, which is the most consistent tracker of voter attitudes towards Congress. Now, here's something interesting. The public perception of Congress and the Senate has actually significantly changed between May and July. In early May, 31% of Americans approved of the job that the House and the Senate were doing, and this was the second straight month that Gallup recorded congressional job approval above 30%. Now, I know 30% doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if you compare that with what the perception was in late July, that was 18% of Americans who approved of Congress in late July. So basically, less than 1 in every 5 Americans are happy with what's going on in Congress right now. So there's a lot of discontent, there's a lot of dissatisfaction, there's a lot of frustration and anger. And I do believe that if things don't get sorted out quickly, this has the potential to affect our long-term faith, our long-term confidence in the government for many years to come. And that can have even worse long-term consequences. So again, I'm confident, I'm optimistic that Congress will come to some sort of a consensus. The House will come to some sort of a consensus with the Senate, and we'll get all of this sorted out as best as possible with a solution that's amenable to both sides. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new in this video. If you did, please click the like button. Please also subscribe below if you're not a subscriber already. Please enable notifications so you get instant updates from me going forward. Also, if you want to get alerts from us, please send a text message. You'll get breaking news alerts from us. Send a text, get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000, that's 70000, and we'll put you on our alerts list and you can opt out at any time. Thank you so much for watching. I release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Bye.